bringing you the news and information you need from the people making a difference. This is Comcast Newsmakers.
The state income tax, how fair is it, and how can we gauge it comparative to other states? Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Bisicchia. This is Comcast Newsmakers. Always good to have John Shore with us. He's the president of New Jersey Policy Perspective. He'll give us the angle from his perspective as a liberal think tank and when he calls the myth of the top rate. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Looking at the statistics here, New Jersey's not doing so great. 6th in the state, 8.97 top rate.
Well, it's important because we've got some big decisions to make in New Jersey about how to spend money, about where to cut things back, and we need to be talking intelligently and with information about the state income tax to find out what it can produce. So I'm talking about the myth of the top rate because, if you said to a 5-year-old, here's a nickel and here's a dime, which would you rather have? They'll take the nickel because it's bigger, right? Even though it's worth less. Well, that's what we want to talk about here. New Jersey has a top income tax rate of 8.97%. Okay. And you say, well, Connecticut, as an example, has a top income rate of 5%. You say, well, taxes must be lower in Connecticut. They're not.
What about our neighbor Pennsylvania, all the way down the line at 43rd?
That's right, 3.07%. So doesn't everybody in Pennsylvania pay lower taxes than New Jersey? No, that's the point that I want to talk about because it's really important for people to know. Pennsylvania puts that tax on the first dollar you make. New Jersey doesn't put that 8.97% rate on anything lower than your 500,000th dollar. Same thing with Connecticut. They have a 5% rate, but it takes effect at $20,000.
You didn't mention New York yet. New York surely is paying higher than us.
Actually not. New York has a top rate of 6.85%. Now, that's lower than our 8.97, so you say, well, taxes must be lower in New York. Well, they're not, because that takes effect at about $60,000 of income. So we actually put a sheet together because I think it's kind of interesting. A family that makes $125,000 a year pays $3,838 in tax in Pennsylvania and only $17 more in New Jersey. They pay more than that in Connecticut. They pay more than that in New York State because of where these rates take effect.
What is the message, John, you're trying to get out? Because folks will always, you've been on Comcast Newsmakers,
Sure.
It's been a joy to have you on. People will always say, wait a minute, this guy's the tax guy. He wants us to be taxed more. But you're trying to say we're actually not. I'm
kind of on a campaign to make sure we have this in perspective. If folks think taxes are too high, they're welcome to. But let's understand what taxes really are. Overall in New Jersey, we pay between 2% and 3% of our income in income taxes, state income taxes. That's about 28th in the country. So really our income taxes, now sure, our property taxes are too high, and that's a whole other issue that we've talked about, but income taxes aren't. So I want the income tax to be fair, progressive. I want it to produce the revenue we need to avoid serious budget cuts that will hurt people. And I feel like the better educated folks are about that, to what the top rate really means, the better chance we have to have that discussion.
What do you say to some folks that it always seems like we're getting a double whammy? We got the income tax and we got the property taxes, where maybe you go to another state and, hey, you know what, their property taxes, Delaware, maybe it's not so bad, but okay, all right, they're paying it another way. It seems like we're getting a double whammy here in the Garden State.
Well, New Jersey's property taxes are the highest in the country. There's no question about it. We should be relying less on property taxes and more on state broad-based taxes like the income tax, which is based on your ability to pay, which your property tax isn't. We're going through a really tough economic time right now. If you lost your job tomorrow, you wouldn't pay any income tax because you wouldn't have any income, but you'd still have to pay your property tax.
Do you see any changes with the new administration?
Well, I think that there's optimism around because the states are going to get some money from Washington that they haven't gotten before, and that's a good thing because it's an economic stimulus kind of a thing. But some of this we really have to solve in New Jersey, and so we have to be aware of how the system really works. It's not good enough just to say, oh, we've got the 6th highest rate in the country, without understanding that unless you make $500,000 a year, you're not paying that rate.
Finish up with that, John. In many ways, people may think of that too, and even in the past, perhaps mistakes or wrongdoings, or maybe good moves on our part. How important is it for us always to think of ourselves as one of the states, United States? This is something we have to dig ourselves through.
Well, it's true. Every state has their own budget rules. Every state has their own tax structure. And so, sure, it's important to understand that our income tax is not that much of a burden compared to other states. But ultimately what happens is, are we raising enough and spending enough in New Jersey to meet New Jersey's needs? That's the discussion we have to have.
And the good news is you're always leading that discussion and always have your nose in there to give it to us.
We try.
It's great. It's good to see you as always, John. He's John Shore, the president of the New Jersey Policy Perspective. That's a liberal think tank here in the great Garden State. I'm Joe Bisicchia, and this has been Comcast Newsmakers, seen exclusively right here on Comcast Cable. Thank you for watching.